So Deputy Howard, let me ask you a question that's specific to what you do every day in Florida. Are the new marijuana policies for Florida affecting the public safety and your citizens?
Well, excellent question, and I appreciate you asking that. I definitely think so. I definitely think they're affecting us all negatively. And I'll say this about that. I understand why back in 2014, Florida, legislature started a Compassionate Medical Cannabis Act. I get it. At the same time, that act was never meant to allow people to be smoking and driving, right? Amendment 2, 2016, and then also amended in 2019. Now we have legalized smokable, quote, medical marijuana. And that medical use is supposed to only be for a small number of afflictions, right? Cancer, seizures, that kind of thing. But now it really has turned into dang near, recreational marijuana use in Florida. And people think that they can go out and smoke a bunch of marijuana and then drive without any penalties whatsoever. But the dirty secret is that medical marijuana impairment results in traumatic, serious bodily injury, crashes, and fatalities every single day. Whether they have a medical marijuana card or not, drugged drivers are just as bad, if not worse, than people intoxicated by alcohol. And those drugged drivers that are impaired by marijuana, they kill children, grandparents, families every day. And I don't know about you, but I love my family and my friends and my fellow citizens in Florida, and relaxed access to marijuana is not helping anyone. I have a few statistics if you'd like. Just some things that I've done some research I was interested in, but does that answer your question?
Yeah, it really does. I just wanted to follow up really quickly, and then I do want to hear those statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Is it difficult, do you know, to get a medical marijuana card in your area? And also, do the people that you do arrest for these think that this medical marijuana card makes it okay for them to drive high?
Right. So great question. More than 50% of medical marijuana card holders admit to driving, right? And in the state of Florida, like many states, even though we technically don't have a recreational marijuana law, it's just as easy as getting a pack of gum in order to get a medical marijuana card. You go in and say that you have headaches. So anymore, it's even, thanks to COVID, I guess, you can do it in an online situation. Log in, pay your small, very small fee, and in a couple of days, your medical marijuana card shows up at your house. Keep in mind, it's in Florida, it's supposed to mean low THC cannabis. It's supposed to be acquired from the medical marijuana treatment center, and medical use doesn't immediately mean smoking. Per the statute, they have to go through multiple levels of doctor interaction and all sorts of documentation in order to do that. But in Florida, like many states, as soon as you have that card, you can go to any open Florida dispensary and you can buy up to 20 packages of marijuana every
gosh.
35 days. You can possess up to 4 ounces at one time. Even though in Florida, possession of 20 grams or less is still technically a misdemeanor, right? Possession of paraphernalia, use of paraphernalia is still separate misdemeanors. But in the field, how are we supposed to tell without any method of immediate distinguishing between high-grade cannabis and low-grade THC cannabis, which is technically what people are supposed to be, possessing and consuming?
Yes.
And all this while, of course, medical marijuana is still illegal under federal law, right?
Exactly. It is illegal under federal law.
Right.
And we're trying to keep it that way.
I'm glad you are. Thank God you are. I have more than 20 years working the road, primarily in DUI and traffic enforcement. I've seen countless cases of medical marijuana impairment resulting in serious bodily injuries, fatalities. just in our county alone, just in Little St. Johns County with 275,000 residents, our traffic crash numbers have doubled in more than 10 years. Our DUI rates are up 500%.
Oh my gosh.
And more than 10% of the DUI cases just this year involve marijuana. Now, you may not think that that's very many, 10% of 650, but that's almost as many total DUIs as we had in 2012. So we're seeing a substantial increase in serious crashes, fatalities, and drugged drivers. And I can't think that it's not directly related to easier access to high-grade cannabis, right, and marijuana. I think it's a travesty, and this is why I was so pleased when you guys asked me to join this, join the group. Parents Opposed to Pot, Jennifer's Messengers, our sheriff and our sheriff's office have been working very hard to try to stop drug and drunk driving. In the state of Florida, unfortunately, the legislature are doing the exact opposite, in our opinion.
Yes, that's what we're finding, especially now in my state of Ohio. They're doing very little to stop this train. And another thing that I want to point out is my daughter lived in Ohio when she was killed by a marijuana-impaired driver. We didn't have medical marijuana or recreational marijuana legalized in our state. So just because it's not in your state, this man traveled from Michigan, and because it's not in your state doesn't keep you safe. So this is something we need to look at as a nation.
Well, and I hate to say this, I happen to have been to Michigan this year. I happen to know that in the southeast corner of Michigan, which is very close to some big cities in Ohio, there are medical marijuana dispensaries all over. And if you start looking at all the vehicle tags that are coming in, they're all from Ohio. So
exactly,
that whole system continues. It continues.
Exactly. Yes.
And whichever state gets recreational marijuana, then people from the surrounding states come there as soon as possible to get this nasty drug.
Yes.
And I've been thinking a lot about what the medical marijuana card has done to law enforcement. And one of the things that I've seen, especially perhaps in some of our younger generation of law enforcement officers, is I've seen that as soon as a driver of any kind whips out a medical marijuana card and points it at the deputy, that it causes sometimes the deputy to stop in their tracks and do a double take of what the situation is. Perhaps they stopped a DUI driver. In Florida, it's drugs, chemical substances, or alcohol, right? Or in many cases, all three. So they've stopped a vehicle for some kind of traffic violation. Maybe it's a DUI related. They see a medical marijuana card, and then the deputies kind of stop and go, well, wait a minute, if they're allowed to have marijuana, maybe we shouldn't treat this like a DUI stop.
Yes, but it is a DUI stop, and a lot of these people that are driving with these medical marijuana card do think it's a get out of jail free card. Is that true?
And certainly this is my concern, and this is some of the things that I've seen. Patients of medical marijuana are still not permitted to operate any vehicle while under the influence of medical marijuana in the state of Florida. Just because they have a registry card doesn't exempt them from arrest, doesn't exempt them from prosecution, doesn't excuse them from any requirement under Florida law to submit to a breath, urine, or blood test.
That's a very good point. Thank you for making that.
And unfortunately, someone might be possessing perhaps more than 4 grams of marijuana. We see a medical marijuana card and we're like, okay, well, and again, not me, but I've seen it once or twice. And this caused me some concern. Well, maybe I shouldn't be doing full investigation. Now, as an aggressive traffic and DUI unit, which I work primarily for patrol, I back a lot of those guys and ladies up and go, hey, let's see if this person will be willing to do field sobriety exercises or really field impairment exercises. And then let's see if they're impaired. Let's have them go through the standard battery. And while I'm not a drug recognition expert, I am trained all the way through the ARID system, if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
Advanced Roadside Impairment Drug Evaluation. And we'll do the standard battery of field sobriety exercises, plus a couple of additional ones, which will help identify perhaps drug driving with marijuana and others. And in many cases, will have more than enough probable cause to make an arrest for DUI that might have been stopped just because the driver pulled out a medical marijuana ID card. And I don't see any reason for that. Frankly, anybody that's driving with a medical marijuana ID card is a concern to me because the THC lasts in the system for so long. Many studies I've read are 17 to 24 hours, even with a very small amount of marijuana smoking.
And you're not even talking about the chronic effect of marijuana, because
right.
It stays in our system. So you may not have smoked that day, but consumed alcohol. And because it does act on the cannabinoid system and it opens up these receptors, it causes much greater impairment than it would if you weren't using marijuana at all.
Well, you make a...
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, when you talk about how much marijuana they're allowed to buy at these dispensaries, I just want to give an equation of how much that really is, because you can get as many as 60 joints out of an ounce of pot. So you're talking 4 ounces.
Right. In state of Florida, the limit right now for possession, medical ID card or not, is 4 ounces. It's a lot of marijuana to pack around.
Right. Right. This isn't a small amount of marijuana. This is a large amount for one person to possess.
Right. And the argument could be made, well, I'm buying multiple days worth of, product, and that way I don't have to go back and forth to dispensary. That's fine. My concern is just like yours. Anyone that smokes, ingests, whatever, any kind of marijuana or cannabis with THC in their system, and then goes out and drives, that driver is a threat to the public. They're potentially in violation of Florida law, and it does nothing to help any of us in the state or the country, for that matter.
And innocent people are being killed, not just endangering themselves, but all the people on the roads around them, including you guys.
No question. In 2020 alone, there were over 750 fatalities in the state of Florida involving alcohol, drugs, or a combination of both. This is directly from Colonel Gene Spalding, of the director of the Highway Patrol here in Florida. The quote, "These tragedies caused by impaired drivers on our roadways will haunt the families who will never have the chance to hug their loved ones again."
That's right.
And in state of Florida, this is what we say: if you're impaired in any capacity, there is no excuse. Do not drive. And,
yes,
the problem is the active medical marijuana card numbers continue to grow. We now have over 500,000 registered Floridians. More than 2,500 doctors are certified.
It's hard to believe that those are all medically necessary.
And you know what? I'm not so sure, how that could possibly be. I don't know these people. That's between them and their doctor.
Right.
And again, the statistic that I'm most worried about is the number of crashes that are caused by impaired drivers, the number of fatalities that causes. And keep in mind, just fatal crashes, 750 in 2020. Now, there's only 365 a day, so that's 2 a day, every day in 2020. And 2020 was supposed to be a low travel year, right? Because of the COVID pandemic.
That's right.
That's right. And just fatalities. A couple other quick statistics that are interesting. January 18 to December 31st of 20, more than 3,000 drug impaired crashes in Florida, more than 1,800 fatalities, and more than 2,400 people injured by drug drivers. This is just in Florida, right? It's terrible.
Yeah, Deputy Howard, you bring up an excellent point that is not part of our statistics that does bother me sometimes. It's not just the people that are killed. What about the people that are maimed for life because of this?
Right.
They're not even part of the statistics. And I just think that's something we need to talk about. These people's lives are changed forever. And
so out of 3,000 drug impaired crashes in Florida, 1,800 fatalities, and an additional 2,400 people with serious bodily injuries. That is completely and totally unnecessary. It never should have happened.
Right.
And Florida, thank God, just finally started tracking drug-related crashes in an official manner. back in 2018, which is why I happen to have some of these statistics. And you know, the most interesting part, marijuana impairment is the number one most prevalent drug found in drug drivers. That caused a crash in Florida. I'll say it again. Marijuana is the number one. It's not even close to the other, like opioids and such. Number one most prevalent drug, marijuana. And again, totally unnecessary, right? They're helping this helps no one. We have to stop it.
Well, we thank you. You're helping us bring awareness to this problem that we have on our roads with marijuana. You know why I do this, and we're just so happy that you've joined us in this public awareness that we'd like to bring forth and educate people about what is going on today. A lot of people go on vacation in Florida, and that's really scary to think that they could be there with their family, trying to go to the beach, trying to have a good time, and something very serious can happen, like an impaired driver can be slamming into them like they did into my daughter, and taking innocent lives. So what you're doing is very important, and we appreciate it very much. And is there anything else you'd like to add before we close today?
I just want to say this about that. My heart goes out to you and your family for what you've had to suffer through, and all of the residents of the state of Florida and the U.S. for that matter that have been impacted in a horrible way by a drug or a drunk driver. Support your law enforcement as much as possible. Support your DUI units, your traffic investigators, your traffic homicide investigators. These people are God's angels. They work an ungodly number of hours to investigate these crashes and understand them. Sometimes they take years to finally complete. There was just a traffic crash Florida Highway Patrol finally finished investigating in our county that involved the fatality of a family and 2 unborn children. The driver the family was killed by a DUI driver, and very complicated crash scene. It took them almost 2 years to finally get it all put together. These folks are true heroes, and you know, thank God for Governor DeSantis and the Florida legislature for what they have done for us. But I call on them to completely retract all medical marijuana laws and finally enhance DUI and cannabis possession charges to the felony level. Perhaps charging DUI drivers with a felony might finally be enough incentive to get people to stop drinking, smoking, and driving.
I agree with you 100% on that. It needs to be tougher penalties, although as we all know, it's going in the other direction. And I'm glad that you have a voice to that as well.
Well, thank you for giving me that voice. I'm happy to be of assistance. I know that I'll be working extensive DUI shifts this week and next, and doing everything I can to try to protect those citizens of our county and the state of Florida.
Thank you so much, Deputy Howard. It was wonderful talking with you. Have a wonderful day.
Yes, ma'am. I look forward to visiting again.
Thank you.